View from the Gutters, episode 56. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss RASL, and to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 10121. I'm just turning you up, Joe.
Okay, cool.
Because you got a year quieter than you.
I think I'm extra raspy today.
Ooh, raspy for RASL.
Extra raspy? I got nothing.
All right. What is this, 56?
56.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 56. I'm Andrew Chard.
I am Joe Preddy.
I am Tobiah Panchin.
And I'm Cade Reynolds.
And we did it.
We did it.
We're here. We're alive another week.
We are, yes. It was arduous.
Wait, which episode was this?
56.
Okay.
We're not in the future yet. Well, now we are.
Another
Now
episode divisible by 8?
We're still in the past.
Wait, no, I'm in the
Because
future.
when they listen to this, it'll have been like a
Well,
week.
that's true. I mean, they're the
we're
time
in
travelers.
like the future past.
They don't know that we're trapped in this room and that
We can never leave.
We can never leave.
Cookie
Like,
jail
we're
has
forced
become
into
our
this.
reality.
It's awful, and there are no cookies here.
And we can't travel between universes.
We can't.
At least Chard makes damn good beer.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we're running out.
we're out. We actually have one bottle left.
See, now it's game over.
It's the red ale, isn't it?
I believe it is the last red ale. And I have half a bottle of whiskey or rum. I think it's rum over there somewhere.
Well,
And a bottle of Tabasco sauce.
And a bottle of, it's Tapatio. So.
well, there's honey, soy sauce, and tapatio here, so that when I have to kill all of you and eat you,
It's not
you
that
can
bad.
be well flavored.
Just make sure to cook us first.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I'm
use
having
the electric.
flashbacks to episode 12.
I'm gonna use the electricity to cook you.
We,
I'll
we do have that in here.
Yeah, totally.
Electricity.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about this week?
We are talking
RASL.
about RASL by Jeff Smith of Bone fame.
Yeah. Tell me you recommended this.
I did.
What would you like to say?
On the reread, because this is my second time reading it, I mostly liked it,
Yeah.
but there were 2 points that I found were kind of weirdly incoherent. So I guess I'm just going to
Yeah,
jump
go for
right
it.
into it. So the scene, it's like right in the middle of the book when he runs into that drifter who's the president and
Yeah.
God, who
Yeah.
is the creepy fucking little girl.
Well, maybe, God.
Maybe God.
I think she's good.
They're talking about how like RASL and the president, like they met before.
Right.
And RASL's like, that was in another universe. And every time I get to that part, I'm like, okay, when did that happen? And I actually flip back through the entire thing, and
Yeah.
it does
It
not
doesn't
ever
happen.
happen
It's
in
not
this
in the
book.
book, yeah.
Like, that was super duper confusing for me every single time it happened.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, just like with all the dimension hopping and how similar the different realities are, I always find myself getting super confused about what reality he's in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I really wish that there was some kind of like signifier, like an image or a color or
Well,
something that told me what reality we were
I like
in.
when he talks about Dylan not being Dylan.
Yes.
Like how he identifies that universe with that, but he doesn't do the same thing for any of the other universes. And, like, stylistically, I like that there isn't a lot of distinction between the universes because it leaves you feeling fairly confused and you're, like, on the same page with him a lot because I get the feeling that he's kind of losing track of where he's at ever.
Right, and that's the thing too, is that I start losing track of like what happened in what reality.
Yeah. And
I'm not even quite sure how many realities he visited. I think it's 4?
yeah, I was going to say 3 or 4. It's not very
Yeah.
many.
So there's the Zimmerman universe. There's the Dylan universe, which is I'm
Okay, there's
assuming
the
is-
universe that he came from.
Right.
Right.
There's the Zimmerman universe.
Yep.
And is that the same one that has Uma and the museum in it?
Yes.
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
And it's also not the same universe as the one where he stole the Picasso from,
Right.
or the second Picasso.
Right.
Okay, so
So that's 4.
Right, and his universe is the one in which what's her name?
Maya.
The prostitute.
Anne.
gets
Annie,
killed.
Yeah,
Annie, yeah.
Right? She dies
Yes.
in his own universe?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay.
of this.
because he's in the universe where he steals the first painting
Right.
first. Then he jumps to the Zimmerman universe. Then he jumps to his own universe.
Right.
After
Go
getting
visit her.
shot at.
Right.
And he gives the shot up painting to that Annie. That's his Annie
Right.
from his universe.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. So 4 probably
Probably.
is what I'm
Unless
saying.
there's another one in there that we missed.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
But-
My confusion stems from when they're jumping around. We're meant to understand that you like quantum leap, like you jump into the body of the you that lives in that universe.
No.
Because
That
there's
basically, when you jump into that universe, the you that's there, like, ceases to exist.
No.
No.
The lizard face guy,
Sal.
What Sal says is you and I, we're different than all of these people.
because there's only one of us.
There's only one of us.
But we
in
know
the
that's
multiverse.
not true.
But
Because the second Annie from the alternate reality, she also knew a RASL.
Yes.
Who wasn't him.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Maya is able to jump, and
she takes
he's-
over basically her alternate person's
Yeah,
life.
well, and like the thing is that he says that at first, and then he says you occupy the body of the person of the you that lives in this universe, and that's why it's confusing because they don't say anything else about it after
Well,
that.
they don't occupy the body because he retains like the injuries and the tattoos,
Which
he
is
has.
also what's
That's what I'm saying.
confusing
Like,
about
you
it.
replaced them in that universe. Like,
So
they
they
cease
just
to
wink.
exist.
They just wink out of existence.
Yeah. You just killed that person. They don't exist anymore.
All right.
Yeah, it's not clear.
That's weird.
And
Yeah.
also, like, as far as stuff that I've read with other alternate universe stuff, it seems to be explained better in those books, like Infinite Vacation, which
I think that was part of the charm of this book, though, is that it never explained stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like, there are some parts of this that are kind of incoherent, and I'm always left kind of scratching my head.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I love this story. Like, I think it's incredibly imaginative.
Yeah.
Jeff Smith's artwork is incredibly strong in this. Like, it just has this weird energy to it. Like, I picked up this book, like, thinking I was just going to read a couple issues, and like I just started breezing through it so quickly because I like wanted to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
Like I really love the story.
I like the story a lot. I like the mystery of the universe a lot more than I like the answers that the universe gives. And so in reading, like, I read it really fast because I was like, oh, I wonder how it's going to end. I wonder what all this is. And none of my real questions were answered, and all of my superfluous questions became the main question. Like, who is Uma? What happened to Maya? What happened at the factory after he left? Like, became very important. And stuff like, who is Sal? Where does he come from? What is he doing?
Why is he
like,
look that
who
way?
is he? Like, because I thought he was gonna turn out to be like Miles or somebody like
He
that.
definitely
he knew.
looks like a mutated version of something.
Yeah, exactly.
His
Like,
face is really creepy weird.
I was thinking that like he went after him, but something went wrong with the device, and like he got messed up, and that's why he had this like vendetta against him. And then it turns out he's just an employee. But he kills his own boss.
I think there's a larger...
And, like, the questions I have about Sal, because I think he's a lot more interesting of a character than anybody else in the book.
I think
He's not that interesting.
I didn't
Well,
find him that
He's
interesting.
interesting
but
because you don't know anything about him. Like, to me, that's
Well,
interesting.
he's a Homeland Security agent.
But
and
he
he's a
kills
dick.
his own boss.
That's not his boss. That woman works for the
No,
Army.
she works for the government.
She works for the government, but for a different division of the government.
But
like
he-
they say that he's on loan from the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, she's on
like he's
loan,
a
but-
different agent.
But you
He's
still shouldn't
he's
kill
still
your,
reporting
your...
to her.
No,
though.
but he was obviously like some kind of crazy zealot.
Yeah, and I want to know more about that.
Well,
And
and
that's
that's
fine.
Yeah.
That's what I found interesting was this, the conversations they had, and I agree. Like
Yeah.
he's like, no, they're just manifestations of energy
Yeah,
that you
you
create when you
created
travel
them.
through the drift. It's like, what is your basis for saying
Yeah.
that? Where do you come from that you can like hurl these things around? Just
How do you know?
I mean, it's interesting.
Why
to
do
me.
you think that? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that this is just kind of this little 15-issue story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
where you don't get all the answers.
No.
Like, there are still questions, but they're not necessarily relevant to the story that's being told. They're
No,
just
I
kind of
agree.
things that are out there.
I agree. It leaves me unsatisfied at the end of the story, though, because I'm like, yeah, you wrapped everything up, so there will never be another story, and I will never learn anything else about this universe. And now
I think
all
on a
of my
certain
questions
level,
are unanswered.
On a certain level, you don't need to know those things.
No, I don't need to know them. But if you're gonna drop stuff like that in the middle of the story, I feel like you should follow up either slightly on that or not put that stuff in there, because Sal's characterization as a zealot is really interesting. But once you start to get into the fact that like he says that he knows more about the multiverse than the guy that is like multiverse traveling, like that's important.
Well, I feel like Smith could have written another 100-issue series based on of this story.
Yeah.
But he had just finished Bone, and I don't think that he had the appetite to do that. He just wanted to kind of do something.
Well, and
quick.
I think you can tell, like this kind of storytelling for him. Bone is so smooth.
Yeah.
And
the art is 100% consistent in Bone.
Yeah, and it's
not in
this. And I don't have a problem with that because I actually find that to be really charming.
I agree.
Because I think I don't have a problem knowing who anybody is. And I really liked, even though I think there are some inconsistencies, I don't think it's the point.
It's important to the story, though, too, that you kind of feel like you have questions about what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's how the main character feels. So I think that it's intentional, that it's like, wait, that guy kind of looks like that. Is this what's happening?
And it's
to keep you off your toe, on your toes, I guess.
And I think that's why it's, at the end of the day, when I finished it, I think there were certain things, I don't want to say that I had problems with, but certain kind of nagging things, like the bomb and the little girl and what the significance was. But then when you think about it, well, you only know what RASL knows.
Yeah.
Then you're kind of like, okay, well then that's actually really interesting. And I think that's a ballsy way to tell a story.
Yeah, it's not the unreliable narrator. It's just a limited view narrator.
Yeah, exactly.
He just doesn't know a lot.
And I think one of my least favorite things in any kind of medium is exposition for exposition's sake.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, although it would have been nice to know a little bit more about Sal and what was going on there.
I don't think you need to tell that in exposition. I think you could have shown what the universe that he came from, or a little bit more about that. But I agree with you. Once you just start and this is why this is the way it is. It just takes you out of the experience much. So I was glad that it wasn't in here.
Yeah, I think it would have been really difficult to do it in a way that kept the narrative flow of the rest of the story.
Because it's a fast read.
It is really an incredibly fast read.
I was telling Joe, I had read probably half of this before. And Joe's like, oh, man, we got to read RASL. And I was like, compared to what we've read for the last, 2-3 weeks, this is going to be a breeze. It reads so quick. And that's one of the things I really love about it.
I didn't even realize it was 15 issues. I thought it was more like 8.
It just goes by so
quick. Well, once
quick.
it gets going, it goes.
Oh,
it definitely goes.
Absolutely.
And the art is so fluid that, you can very easily lose yourself in it. And, all the problems I have with inconsistency are the fact that I read it in black and white again. I'd like to check out the color edition next time. But, all of that is all of the inconsistencies and the kind of wonky nature of it really leads and lends itself well to the surreal storytelling that's happening. So it's not really a complaint. It just is there, and it's fine.
I find myself wondering. I was halfway convinced about halfway through the story that he might just be hallucinating everything.
Yeah,
and I'm glad he wasn't, because I always kind of feel that's a cop out. But there are a few story beats that I got. As soon as they were like, "We don't know where Maya is," I was like, "Oh, it's Uma." That's pretty.
Oh, me too.
But
that was unsatisfying. For
I
me
totally
as well.
did not see that coming the first time I read it.
Oh, not well. No, I guess this was the first time that I read that half of it, so I did.
Yeah, but I think that comes from my background of if a character is missing and there is somebody that is in any way connected with that character, that's the character.
Joe watches a lot of soap operas.
I watch a lot of
ready for that doppelganger.
I watch a
switch.
lot of Hitchcock films and I read a lot of mysteries.
The law of narrative law of narrative conservation.
Yeah. Why create
basically why create another character that you could just use a character that you already have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing that was really interesting to me was that this was written before they figured out the Tunguska
The Tunguska blast.
Yeah, the Tunguska blast, which actually was an asteroid. They actually did.
I was actually about to touch on that when you guys were going. Because it's something I was fascinated with, and I actually disagree with you. Because they had known about that for a while.
Well, it had been a theory.
Well, it had been
a
theory, but they recently showed that it was possible and explained how. That
it was before this. When did this come out?
They only discovered that in the last couple of years or so. This is 2011.
Was 2006.
I think it just came out from 2008 to 2010, actually.
Did it really?
I believe so.
Okay, because it was in 2006 where they definitively proved it was an asteroid.
Well...
Actually, it was 2008 through 2012.
Yeah, it
took a while.
So it was already a thing.
I'm not sure about that.
There's also stuff in here about Tesla that is like...
No, and I was fascinated with the Tesla thing.
Well, it borders on historical
inaccuracy,
fiction, and historical inaccuracy.
Glaring.
There's stuff in here that's like not exactly the way that it happened. Like he's definitely changed history to tell a story.
They talk about how, like in every other universe that he's visited, Tesla died in 1901 before his like greatest discoveries.
Before his discovery of 1908.
I think that he's kind of tacitly implying like RASL's reality is not necessarily our own, and his Tesla did different things.
No, I totally agree with that.
And I thought that was actually, I had that insight towards the end.
Yeah.
And I actually really appreciated that because I was thinking, wait a minute, he's speaking awfully knowledgeable about a time when Tesla was not really on the radar.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it could just be in his reality Tesla did these things.
Exactly.
You know, that's super cool.
I should say that my lack of enjoyment about the Tunguska event was a fault on my part and not of the story. I wanted to point that out because as somebody who's really into how asteroids have shaped our Earth and the whole Tunguska event altered the formation of the Himalayan mountains and all that stuff, I mean, to me, that felt awkward. But that is a fault of my own,
but
and not
it's
of the
historical
story.
fiction in the fact that, like, historical fiction isn't, in my mind, is not the same as sci-fi, because in sci-fi you try to keep things relatable. You know, you try to make the characters and the situations like as you're explaining everything because this is a universe that has not existed before.
Well,
like you're trying to express the science fiction universe is trying to be expressed to the reader in some way. Mm-hmm. They're trying to explain to you like how this world is different from ours, or how the universe works. Like that's a big part of sci-fi.
And it could be that in this
fiction,
universe that event was caused by Tesla.
Well,
in historical fiction, you're very much trying to trick
I want to say something
reader,
because I knew that I'm right on this because I listened to NPR with my brother. The paper that definitively proved that the Tunguska was a comet was published in 2013. That was
the paper I read was in 2006, but it was still being peer reviewed.
Well, in 2013, a team of researchers led by Victor Kavanstia, I probably butchered
because
that.
It was after they figured that out in 2006 that they started looking at Lake Chekhov more closely.
Well,
that started in 2007.
This is talking about analysis results from microsamples from a peat bog near the blast epicenter, showing fragments that may be of meteoric origin. So, and this is from the Wikipedia page.
I'm not sure that this is 100% like necessary for.
Well, no, and I like
comic.
I think that I thought about that, and I thought that it was. He wouldn't. The reason I made a mental note of that is because I thought it was kind of cool that I don't know that it would have been a bigger stretch had we already known that, and he wanted to say that it was something that Tesla had done because
Well, the thing is that Tesla. I've heard that Tesla theory before.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
Like, I believe he actually thought that he had done that.
Yes.
I
when
would
it
not
happened.
be surprised. At that point, Tesla was really removed from...
Awesome. Yeah.
Crazy?
Well, he was always awesome, but he was
Crazyville?
not...
I do want to say one other thing, though. In reference to last week's episode when we were talking about science fiction and how you change one thing about how the universe operates and everything else needs to be consistent. And I said that was from A.E. Van Vogt. My mother very kindly mentioned that it was not Van Vogt, it was H.G. Wells.
Oh, okay.
So a little correction there.
I think what I'm saying narratively, though.
All the Wells fans out there that were railing against you for misattributing that quote are now quelled.
Yeah.
Well,
they're
and
happy.
see, and I always I always in my head when I hear that quote, I think of Tobias' father. So
Well, he
that's
talks
why
about it
I
in the
said
book.
that on
But the point I'm bringing
episode.
up is that, like, a normal science fiction narratively, the science fiction universe is there to be described to the reader because things have been changed. Like, you have to understand how the universe works. And historical fiction very often doesn't want you to know what's different.
Yeah,
like, that's
absolutely.
part of the
And
plot
that
is
is-
like
that is
revealing that, oh, this, like, how did this happen? And especially historical fiction that is like stuff that's happened in the future after a alternate history.
Yeah,
Like,
you start
especially
out with
books like that.
reality being different,
Right.
and you slowly work backwards to
Absolutely.
what was the root cause of this one change.
And even sometimes like that's not really that important, but it does come, like East of West that I've recommended on here before. Like, all we know is that at the end of the Civil War there were 7 nations instead of 1. And, like, that changed everything, you know, like, and we don't really need to know any of the details of how that happened.
Well,
but,
I think that's less historical fiction and more alternate universe.
well, yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Because this is
or alternate history. I
This
guess.
is alternate historical fiction too.
Yes.
Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But I think it works really well in this book to have all of the Tesla facts and, like, the Tesla. That was my favorite part of the whole
No,
book.
I did really enjoy that. I think that Edison does get way too much credit for.
Being the worst person ever on the planet.
He is actually
Yeah.
kind of a horrible human
Hey,
being. But I
well-
feel like there's been a lot of pushback against Edison in recent years, and a lot of people who have discovered, like, hey, Tesla was not the wacko that he was portrayed as for
Oh,
a
yeah.
long time. He was actually, like, a really brilliant scientist. And I think part of that was things like RASL or Atomic Robo.
Well, the fucking
there's
as
been
much
a
as I hate to
tons-
fucking talk about him, Matthew Inman at the Oatmeal has been waging a one-man war against Edison forever.
Well, a lot,
And I mean,
Also,
like,
that movie, The Prestige, brought him up.
Yes.
and there's a Bob's Burgers episode about Edison.
I don't remember when Tesla started being a thing, but it was. I mean,
I remember
It's probably been a lot for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
the first time
yeah.
I remember the, like, this is a weird. I was gonna say edification because, like, that is a word, but I don't mean that in relationship to Edison. Of Tesla was in the game Command and Conquer Red Alert, which is an alternate history. You had Tesla science-based weapons.
Nice.
Like, that was very much a like, "Ooh, Tesla made these awesome, crazy electronic weapons. They're not
Death
Edison.
beams.
They weren't Edison weapons. They were Tesla weapons.
No,
And
totally.
then, like, Tesla very much inspired a lot of, like, alternate technology, including stuff in
No,
the movie
absolutely.
Frankenstein, which they bring up in this
Yeah.
comic. But I think that there's been a mysticism about Tesla for a long time because
Well,
even in the
He's-
books,
He's the mad scientist character.
he absolutely
to a T.
is. In 5 Fists of Science, you know, which we've recommended on the show before.
Aw, yeah.
Edison is the villain, and
And we
Tesla
still need to
is
talk about that. I feel that it was
Giant
talking about.
robots.
giant robots. Tesla is the hero, and Edison is the villain. And that book came out easily 10 years ago, I think now. So it's been going on for a while.
And I feel like there was just a big movement to preserve Wardenclyffe, his laboratory in.
Oh, really?
I think it's actually in New Jersey.
It's in New York or New
buy that
Jersey.
site and turn it into a Tesla museum.
It
That would
preserve
be
it
awesome.
It was
because it was going to be torn down.
No, there was a Kickstarter started by Matthew Inman of the Oatmeal that, I mean, it fucking went crazy. Like, he was like, we're going to donate it all to this charity that wants to buy it and set up a Tesla museum. Otherwise, it's going to be like a strip mall. And I mean, it was one of the most incredible things I'd ever seen. Because, like, I watched it, and the first day he got some, like, insane amount of, like, I think $750,000 or something in the first day.
Yeah, it went to like 10 million, didn't it?
And I don't know if it went to 10 million, but, like, I mean, he got it because I think
Yeah.
Tesla's kind of, he's transcended
I
scientists and become
remember
a
it
folk
being
hero.
ridiculously high, even by Kickstarter.
Yeah, no, it was
He's
ridiculous.
also a huge underdog.
Yeah,
as
well,
far
and that's
as it
the
goes,
thing,
because
like-
Command and Conquer Red Alert was, like, literally the first time I'd ever even heard of Tesla.
Yeah.
And I had been in science classes where they talk about Edison like 100 times already.
Well,
and, like,
he's our fucking Pecos Bill. He's our Paul Bunyan, right?
And it's
He's
cool to
like-
know that now in science classes they do teach about Tesla.
That's good because
Yeah.
they didn't when I was a kid.
I know, me neither.
And that's
Well, in
messed up.
some science classes. I
mean, I
know
went to a
that's-
shitty school.
But I mean, the
like,
thing is the internet. It's all kinds, and I think that's a huge part of it. It's just that
absolutely.
Definitely.
people
But-
were like, Tesla, this Tesla guy totally got fucked over.
Well, he did.
And he totally
And
did.
Alternating
yeah.
current is awesome.
Yes.
Do
Tesla.
you guys want to talk about electronics some more?
Not even a little.
I mean, I
about
was
Sam
stoked
here
when,
before
like,
this,
in
and they all
the
wanted to
first
murder
part
me.
of this book, he mentions Maxwell's equations, which are incredibly important
Mm-hmm.
in physics and the uniting of the. Well, when I took physics and calculus a few years ago, and on the last day of the second quarter of classes, we talked about those and how when this happened, this was the uniting of the electric force and the magnetic force into this one force, and it blew minds. Like, this was
Yeah.
absolutely insane.
I felt like you would really appreciate that part of the comic.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, because
Like, we've talked about, like, science wizards before and how so many things reduce science and mathematics to this, like, it's magic and we're not going to explain it.
Yeah.
And this actually does, like, talk about the science a
yeah.
little bit and, like, tries to treat it seriously. I mean,
When they're
it's still
talking
a
about-
fictional story and
Yeah.
it's fictional
Absolutely.
science, but it feels a lot more
It's
serious.
fictional
feels more
science,
like science
based on real
yeah,
science.
absolutely.
And when they talk about electron theory at the beginning of this,
Oh
I was
yeah,
like,
and the electron's just
and-
not.
Yeah, well, because there are two theories that I absolutely love. That are two of my favorite scientific theories of all time, which is the infinite multiple universe theory,
Many
which
worlds
is-
interpretation.
and which this book is about, obviously.
Yeah.
And two is the singular universal electron theory, which
There's just one-
There's
there's
only
just
one
one
electron
electron.
in the universe,
I've heard that.
and it moves forward and backwards through
That's-
time.
that's
and
just-
Because a
Silly.
positron is an electron moving backwards through time.
Something like that.
I
it's-
love
it's silliness.
It's a silly theory, but I absolutely love it. That there's like only one, and that everything is connected by that one universal
Yeah.
force.
I-
It's slightly ridiculous, but I love
I'm
it.
a big fan of the Copenhagen interpretation myself.
If we're
like-
not talking about science, well, wait, the Copenhagen.
The Copenhagen interpretation is the many worlds theory comes
Oh,
out
right.
of basically, if I can get sciencey here for a second,
Do it.
You had these experiments that had this like board with like
These the
slots.
the light board.
Yeah. You had a
And
light
you were
board and it had
shooting
slots in
electrons at
it,
them? Yeah.
and so you would shoot a photon or like basically a particle of
electrons.
light at this slot, right?
the
And
double
you would-
slot experiment.
Yeah, the double slot
Right,
experiment.
and so- and then
Exactly.
three
The double
showed up.
slit experiment is
Yeah.
what it's
Slit,
called.
yes.
And
Three.
everyone
lines
you
show
would
up.
get a certain pattern when you observed it, but then when you stopped observing it, you would get this other pattern that showed like photons hitting this screen where they could not possibly have passed through the thing.
Yeah.
And it led to this idea that light exists both as a particle and a wave.
Right.
And that when you observe it, you collapse. It basically exists in all places, and then when you observe it, it collapses, and you force it to choose a place in space.
There's
and that's what it
another
is.
interpretation of that theory, which is that those electrons are electrons from other universes.
Yeah, well, and that's...
Which is the basis of Crichton's thesis in Timeline.
Yeah.
Like if you go, when they're explaining the science of how the universe jumping quantum physics machine works in the book Timeline, they cite that experiment as like,
Well,
where
and
do these electrons
to get
come
even
from?
more
There's
science-
also something similar that they do in his Dark Materials, the book series by Philip
Yeah.
Pullman,
Yeah.
which is incredibly good and also deals with
Which, for
multiple
those of you who
realities.
don't know that name, I'm pretty sure you know the name Golden,
The Golden
Compass,
Compass,
which
Yeah.
is the
It's
first
a
book of the
fucking
series.
travesty that they did not make the next two movies.
Oh
because
my
that
God,
first movie
yes.
is brilliant.
It really is.
If only
my-
for giant fighting polar bears.
Voiced by Ian McKellen.
Dude, I'm a believer, all right?
It was amazing. No,
I still
my
haven't seen the
roommates,
movie because
I
I,
will-
was
I
waiting
will
for the
go and
next two
see
to come
any
out.
movie
it has
with Eva
Daniel
Green in it.
Craig in it.
Yeah, my roommates they were just like up, and it was on TV one night. Sam, who was on the video show one time, we were just like sitting down, and it turned on, and I was like, "Oh, have you guys seen this? It's awesome!" And they're like, "What? What is this? It looks dumb." And they just could not. We watched the whole thing with
That's
commercials. Like we couldn't get it's.
I need to look it up, but the actress who plays Lyra Balakwa in that is Dakota Blue Richards. And I thought she did an incredibly good
Yeah.
job in that movie, and I don't know what else she's been in since
I have
then.
no idea. But yeah, that movie was amazingly
I didn't know
well-made.
if I'm prone to liking movies that have younger female protagonists because because they remind me of Audrey, because Audrey would be the kind of girl that would go out and kick everybody's ass.
And ride polar bears.
And ride fucking hell yeah, right? Like
Absolutely.
Audrey would totally ride a polar bear into battle.
Who wouldn't?
But I liked The Golden Compass. I thought it was good.
I thought that movie was so well. I love the books.
The books are
since I
amazing, and
was
the
a
books
kid,
everybody should read.
That movie, they did a really good job of interpreting that.
To bring the
It is a
conversation
travesty
back,
that they didn't make those other two.
to bring the conversation back to insane theories. For a while, there were physicists that were interested in finding out if events that had not yet happened could actually affect the present, and the way they went about doing this was fucking insane, because they basically had these 3 particles that they would do these very incredibly weak experiments on, and then they would have something happen every so often that that was random, right? And then they would study. They actually did show this really weird correlation, but you can't tell because you can only do weak experiments on them, because once you do something strong, you collapse the waveform and it goes away. But it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. We're living in the future, you know. We have fusion now. Within the next 25 years, we'll have a huge fusion reactor in Europe that's putting out terawatts of power.
Okay, we've had fusion power since like the 70s.
No.
And they've been saying since the 70s.
No, we haven't.
25 years.
We have not had fusion. They just did it
we had fission.
near Berkeley.
No, they didn't. Because the whole thing is that we've had fusion for a very long time. The thing that we haven't had is a method of fusing atoms that produces more energy than you put into it. And they still have not done
They
that.
did do it. They did it the other day. The
they
article,
didn't.
I read an article. Yes, they did. It was putting out more energy than it was putting in. It was still not in a sustainable form because the laser they were using.
Right, and that's the thing, is that they externalized the power of the laser.
But still,
Once you count that in, it's still energy negative.
But they got it to work. That's the
But
thing.
one day,
did they?
one day, maybe in like 100, 150
They
years,
did, and the
it'll
first
work.
thing we're gonna fucking fusion is you. No,
I'm
that
still
wouldn't even work.
waiting for my robot maid, so this is not yet.
Wait,
the
do you want
future.
like Rosie the robot
Yes.
maid? Because I want hot robot maid.
No.
There's actually
Rosie
a
the
comic.
Robot.
I want like
I'm
Sorayama.
waiting to
No.
pitch it until more issues
Mike
are out
Sorayama.
because it's still very early in it. But I'm going to pitch it to the audience to start reading it now because I'm going to want to talk about it later. Called Alex and Ada,
Oh yeah.
which is about a guy who's basically his grandmother buys him a robot for his birthday.
I
And
can't remember if I've talked about it on the video show yet or not.
I don't know that you
I
have.
don't think I have.
But basically, he
been
takes
reading
this
it, though.
robot and he decides he's going to jailbreak it.
Yeah.
And it's this really, really interesting SF story. I caught up on the first 4 issues. Issue 4 just just out.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first arc or whatever isn't done yet, so I'm not ready to talk about it on the podcast. But I highly, highly recommend this to everybody.
Super good.
Like this is one of the comics that I am the most excited about right now.
What? It's not Punisher?
No,
It's not Superman.
I hate all of you. I hate you so much.
If we're just talking about crazy theories, everybody go Google Phantom Time.
No, don't do
Okay,
this.
so
It's
I
so
wanted
cool.
to say something about RASL again. I couldn't remember if I had put this into the book of my own accord or if this actually happened in the book. Did they have the disappearing ship in this book with the people?
The Philadelphia experiment.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that happened
Yeah.
in the book.
Okay, I didn't know if it did because I've read so many things with it in, and a lot of the times people will tie it to Tesla and that whole thing, and there are so many crazy theories about that, and I thought it was awesome that it appeared.
Yeah, the way that he weaves all of this stuff
Yeah.
together with the story that he's telling, because there's kind of this whole side thing about Tesla that doesn't tie to the story at all, except it's sort
Right.
of back matter.
Well,
but it
yeah.
flows in this really organic way where it feels like it's really part of the story, and there's this kind of continuous sequence of events. And that actually reminded me of something that I wanted to talk about, which is the library aide who gives him Tesla's notebooks, who just fucking vanishes out of nowhere. And every time I've read this, I feel like he is in some way connected to the drifter and the little girl,
Yeah.
but there's absolutely no evidence of it.
Yep.
Well, you know, the
But
beautiful.
I love how this almost has a quality of a ghost story.
Yeah.
Like all these kind of things flowing around him that are sort of connected but not in any way that you can really measure.
The library aid could have been God in a different form.
I really would love to see this as a film.
I was actually about to say that.
Yeah.
I would love to see this.
In an era,
like a la
Primer.
Primer.
or
Yeah.
Looper, like in an era when you can make stuff like that, and you're not losing your audience, I think that you could do it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting
You
to
guys have
see a
seen
director's
Looper, right?
interpretation.
I have actually not seen
I've not
Looper.
seen Looper
Oh my
yet.
God. What the
I
fuck
want
is
to.
wrong?
I don't have money to
heard
go
of
to
it.
the movies.
It's just like it's been on DVD for like.
It's not streaming though,
2
right? Like, do I have to?
guess.
It is
know.
criminal that I have
just
to
had-
leave my house to get a movie in this day and age.
I just had Brant tell me about the whole movie.
Oh, well,
That's almost better than
that.
watching
That
the
is
movie.
actually probably almost better than watching it.
I
But-
want to see Looper.
You should, because it deals with a lot of in the trailer, in the preview, it tells you that there's time travel and you just
Yeah.
have to fucking accept that.
Well, and I can't
And
believe how much they made Jiggle look like Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
That's kind of creepy.
I love the
In an awesome
prosthetics,
way.
like totally make him look
Yeah.
like it. I saw an interview with him talking about how he was imitating Bruce Willis, and he was like, "I never realized how quiet Bruce Willis talks
He is
until I
very-
started studying him more."
He's
And that's
very
the
quiet.
first time I noticed that he.
Yeah,
Bruce
he
Willis
always
is
talks
qui-
in like a
he's
hushed voice.
He's a quiet
Like
talker.
even with him in like those Die Hard movies, you know, it's like you got like Schwarzenegger and Stallone, like, "Rah!"
Yeah.
And even when he does "Yippee ki yay, motherfucker," he's just like "Yippee ki yay, motherfucker." And,
Yeah.
like he doesn't yell it.
I know.
He's very intense in that way.
I love it when he's crawling through the drain and talking to himself.
I know. It's just like those. Die Hard
all
is
right, Joe.
my second favorite Christmas movie.
It's my favorite Christmas movie.
The Ref is my favorite Christmas
I
movie.
can't. I don't like that movie.
I love that movie.
You don't like Jingle All the Way?
That's my second favorite Christmas movie.
My
Somehow I would have
second-
guessed that.
My
It's
top
also
three
my second
Christmas
favorite
movies
Arnold
are The
Schwarzenegger
Ref,
movie.
Die Hard, and Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, those. It's Die Hard, Jingle All the Way, and Lethal Weapon for me. It's because Jingle All the Way is also my second favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Oh God, no.
Not
Is it
movie.
your favorite Sinbad movie, though?
It is my. It is better than First Kid.
No, you're clearly wrong.
It's definitely better. Than First
The only
Kid.
thing I ever remember, Sinbad used to have his own show on Fox, and the only thing I remember from it is that he won he was trying to win tickets to go see Sade in concert, and every fucking time during the episode he said a name, he did this little dance with like Sade, and that's the only thing I remember that Sinbad has ever done in his entire
You don't
life.
remember First Kid,
No.
where the president's son gets internet. Gets like he
Internet
meets like an
kidnapped?
internet friend, and then they go to meet at the mall, and it's an old man.
I mean, I remember, I never saw it. I never saw it.
I've
But,
never even heard of this movie.
Oh,
I-
Sinbad is a bodyguard for the president's son. That's why it's called First Kid.
It is called First Kid.
It's bad.
It's not about the first kid ever.
No, it's bad.
It's truly bad.
They need to make an Anthro the First Boy movie.
Why not Commandi the Last Boy?
Why not both?
Why not the musical that we talked about during Crisis?
Go listen to that. 'Cause relive the magic. that
Relive
was
the magic that is
birth
the
of
Crisis
idea.
on Infinite Earths, the musical.
Well, one thing I was bringing up when we were talking about Looper was ideas like this as a film 5-10 years ago would be no studio would back
No,
this.
nobody would touch
it. It's way too complicated. But after stuff like District 9 and Looper that just made crazy money on a movie.
Well, and Primer.
And Primer.
Stuff like
And
that.
Well, that was like super indie and entirely incomprehensible.
yeah.
If you watch it 3 times, you get it. Like I watched it
If
3
you
times
watch
and
it
then
7 times, the devil appears.
It's true. I've seen it 3 times and then I said fuck it and I went to a wiki so now I understand what
I've
happens.
read the wiki and I still don't fucking understand that movie.
I understand what
I
happens.
I
but-
showed you that movie in the first place.
Yes, you did, and I became obsessed with it
I knew you would.
because I have to know what happens. Because I myself am I'm not a time traveler. I'm
I
just
just-
functionally immortal.
I think that you could make this
Are you the man
Work.
from Earth?
I could be.
because I think it has a very cinematic narrative style.
It
Oh,
does.
I
absolutely.
was thinking the other day, what if I was a Time Lord and I don't remember my past journeys, and so I'm pretending, or like I'm stuck on Earth with no memories? And
No, I was there. I've never seen you before.
Well, this is a
You're
great way to
safe.
spend your time as a Time Lord.
Actually, Cade, I didn't want to tell you this, but you're actually the prince of the land of magic, and I stole you from your father as a baby and brought you to Earth to protect you from the evil Baron who has usurped your throne, and now we need to return to the land of far away for you to kill the evil Baron and restore magic to the land.
I was trying to figure out what movie this was.
That's like
I know
every
now.
movie I loved when I was a kid.
It's Battlefield Earth.
It's a legend.
Actually, it's Mew in the land of far away.
I'm gonna have to watch
I know.
Battlefield Earth again
Which
now.
is,
No, nobody ever has to watch
I've never
Battlefield
seen
Earth
it.
It's
ever.
Christian Bale's first starring role.
Yeah, we were talking about this off the air last week.
Wait a minute. No, Empire.
No, this is before.
Yeah.
This is
Empire
not
of the
before Empire of the Sun. Empire of the Sun came out in like
96. No.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
93.
Yeah.
This movie came out in like 89.
Yeah, he's like 10 in Empire of the Sun.
Yeah, and he's like 8 in this.
Yeah.
And it was filmed in Amsterdam.
We talked about this last week off the.
Yeah,
were you
no,
not paying
Empire of
attention?
the Sun
Empire of
was-
the Sun is 1987, and
Okay.
it did not come out before Battlefield Earth.
No, not
No,
Battlefield Earth.
they're not talking about
before-
Battlefield Earth.
What do you call it?
What?
Mew in the land of far away.
Oh, I'm sorry. He was talking about Battlefield Earth.
Christian Bale isn't even
He's not
in
even in
Battlefield.
Battlefield.
But that's what. Okay, he said I have to watch Battlefield Earth again, and then
Nobody
you
needs to
said
watch Battlefield Earth.
That was
again.
Christian
it.
Bale's first starring role.
No,
I'm
we
like-
were talking about a different thing, and as usual, you're not listening to us.
I can't keep track of all the fucking covers. I retract my statement.
Okay, they need to make RASL into a movie
They should.
starring Benicio del Toro.
As the
I would-
collector.
I'd watch
Wait,
that.
that's already happening.
I think it has like a very cinematic style, and Kate was mentioning it was Toby. You were mentioning how well the Tesla backstory fits in, and even more than that, I really appreciate how the flashbacks fit into the story, like how seamlessly he transitions from present day to flashback to present day, because he only flashes back to one event.
How crazy
To
is
one
it
time.
the first time that he flashes back and he's like a clean-cut scientist guy?
Yeah, if that hadn't been ruined for me the first time I read it, that would have been a huge reveal.
Like
no,
for me, that was the
Yeah.
first time that was a huge reveal because I mean he's this really like shady, disreputable guy, and you're like,
Yeah, he's a
he
thief.
had to have stolen this technology
yeah.
from somewhere.
yeah,
Well, he
the finding
makes-
out that he was the inventor was like that's a great moment. Someone told me that. So
There
I
aren't
already
enough
knew it,
action
but-
scientists.
That's true.
This is very true.
Yeah,
I
not
wish
since
there were
Dr.
more-
Quinn Medicine Woman has there been an action.
What were we just
scientist
talking
that I
about in
could-
action? Oh, I was talking to somebody about Buckaroo Banzai, and that's what I was saying that was. We were talking about Buckaroo Banzai.
were.
And he's
I was
like,
trying to
he's an
remember
action
why.
scientist, but also a musician.
Was Kevin Sorbo and Dr. Quinn?
I don't think so. Maybe I've never
For some
seen
reason,
Dr.
whenever
Quinn.
I think Dr. Quinn, I think Jane Seymour and Kevin Sorbo.
Wasn't that when
I
he was
have
doing
no
Hercules?
idea
County
why.
Jr.
You're thinking of Sequest.
Did you just say Antonio Sabato Jr.?
No, I said I always think of Briscoe County Jr.
Briscoe County, yes. There was a dude, no, you know who was on Dr. Quinn? It was Achy Breaky Heart dude, wasn't it?
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Wasn't he?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Probably
I
not.
have never seen an episode of Dr.
Wasn't
Quinn.
Me
Achy
either. When I
Breaky
think
Heart
about
one
it
of the
in
dudes
my
from
head,
Brooks and
I
Dunn?
see scenes of Little House on the Prairie.
That-
Well,
I
Like
think
that's
about-
how little I've seen.
I think he's got it right. I'd rather see Briscoe County Jr.
When I think about Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman in my head, all I can think of are the commercials for it that would be on when I was watching Star Trek.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I would just be
Well,
like,
that's
shut up.
that's how it's in my consciousness. Is like I'd be watching whatever, and
Yeah.
I'd be watching
This week on
Matlock
Dr.
as
Quinn
normal.
Medicine Woman.
I actually love watching not necessarily old commercials, but like the interstitial programming.
Old. Oh man, I have all these VHS tapes of old recorded from television that I'm just gonna go through and
I don't watch them. They make me
someday
feel old.
because There's my
It
god.
feels like it's from another universe.
I have these
What is
commercials are
weird for
still
me?
stuck in my head from my childhood. Like I
Oh,
still
God.
can remember songs from commercials from my childhood.
You guys remember there was the Taster's Choice commercial about the couple? And it was like this soap opera that played out in these like commercials where it was
Yes.
like the English couple and he would come over and it was all. I'm like, who the? I was like 10 and I'm like, who the fuck cares? It's a commercial. Why would you fucking do this to a commercial? It's you're selling coffee. Who
Do
gives
you
a fuck?
remember when commercials had plot lines?
I do.
The weird thing for me is watching an old commercial, like Chard was saying, on a recorded VHS tape, and you
Yeah.
realize that's a well-known actor now when they were 8.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, that kid looks familiar.
Or just like the fact that you remember them at all, like that how well marketing just like burns itself into your brain.
You know what
makes me very uncomfortable.
I just realized is that the guy in that fucking commercial is fucking is Giles. It's Anthony Stewart Head that was in those fucking commercials.
I always get the My Buddy and Me song stuck in my head.
Buddy.
Oh, fuck you! Oh, God. I'd like be watching Muppet Babies and then be assaulted with that shit. I'm like, who the fuck wants this? Who is this marketed towards? Lonely children. Maybe I didn't get it because I had a brother, but it was just, no, I never got it.
Do we have anything else really to say about RASL? I mean, it's an incredibly interesting comic. I really love reading it.
I like it.
I feel like it's something you really need to just experience for yourself.
I mean,
yeah, and
I'm glad that I have read it. I don't know that it's one of my favorite comics ever. And 5 years ago, when there were no science fiction comics, I would say like, "Oh man, one of the best science fiction comics! Like, definitely you should read it if you like science fiction." I like a lot of the theories in here. I love all of the science is actually based on real science. I like the alternate history stuff. Like, it hits a lot of the right buttons for me. For me, I think it's just too short. And the surreal nature of the plot is not surreal enough for my taste. But it's just
something.
me.
It's something that I definitely recommend to everybody to read.
Yeah,
it's kind of like one of those those movies where you're just like, oh, I'm just going to put this on in the background because I've watched it 10 times before, but I love just parts of it, so I'm just going to have it on. Like, it's something that I love reading once every year, a couple of years, because it's a quick read and it's fun, and you can just zip through it real quick and get those good moments.
I think it's a great comic to hand to people that haven't read a lot of comics.
I'm
for sure.
fucking floored that this was his follow-up to Bone because it's so different and it's so...
Sort of was his follow-up.
Well, I mean that this was the next because he did. I know he did
project.
Monster Society of Evil happens in between. Yeah,
yeah,
and there may be a couple other things, but this was his first
creator-owned.
This was his first creator-owned kind of ongoing thing for a while, and I think it's incredibly easy for an author to get bogged down. And I think even Warren Ellis falls prey to this, where and Greg Rucka does it too, where they fall in love with a certain kind of character and then tell stories repeatedly about that character. And that's okay. But
there's definitely a moment when the president shows up where I look at him and all I see is Smiley Bone.
That's true. I will give you that. But
literally, I'm looking at him and I'm seeing Smiley Bone in my mind.
This is... It's really crazy to me how different a story this is from Bone, and how
it really is.
There was actually something I wanted to touch on. I apologize for interrupting. I realize I've been doing that a lot, and I wanted to explain to the viewers. Back when I started on this show, it was so hard to get a word in that I had to interrupt people.
We just tell.
Well, let me interrupt you right there.
And now that I'm more well spoken, I just sound like a dick.
We tell Cade to interrupt us because I'll talk for
I don't
literally 5
understand
hours if he doesn't.
Cade's I'm really sorry. Let me interrupt you. I'm like, dude, I screamed at you 3 times in the last episode just to interrupt. It's okay.
3/4 of a 2-hour episode was me. So yeah, you go ahead, Cade. What would you like to say?
Okay, so at the beginning of the book, it starts out with the scene. It's him, bloody walking through the desert, and I could never figure out where that took place in the book because so many times it's that exact same thing and you think that it's starting okay, so now we're in the present again. And then it's at the end and it's what the fuck?
I think that happens as he's going to meet Uma for the last time.
I think so too.
Well, no, it's when he's going down to that...
To dig the desert.
He goes down. He's walking down the mountain, and he pulls up the tarp, and they're the bike's there and his supplies and stuff.
Yeah, but so many points throughout the book, he is bloody and in the desert walking, and you think that you're in the present now from where the story started, and the whole thing was a flashback, and then it's revealed you're still in the flashback. Mm-hmm. From the first page, so
he does get the crap kicked out of him a lot.
It's cool to see a hero get the crap kicked out of him.
Yeah, it's very. There were this felt very noir to me. It's funny because it had a lot of the elements of the dogged antagonist or protagonist, and the fact that he does get the shit beat out of him.
Idea.
Yeah, it's very pulp and very. I also feel even though it takes place during the day, there's a lot of dark stuff going on here, and so it felt very pulpy and. I really like that.
Another thing I want to say is I did read this in black and white, and I don't know if I would have liked it as much in color.
I also read it in black and white.
Yeah, I'd like to read it in color just because I've read it in black and white.
I
almost
might-
I want to read it
Act-
once in color just for the contrast, but I feel like I like the black and white.
Yeah, I really do.
I'd really like to actually. I'm gonna when
I said the same thing about Bone though, and the color in Bone is on.
Yeah, I was
so-
flipping through the big hardback colors edition that came out, and not only was it pretty reasonably priced, but it looked really good. And I'm gonna. One of the things I want to do at Emerald City this year is talk to Jeff Smith a little bit.
Yeah.
And I hope that he has a copy of that because I want to buy it from him and get him to sign it. But also because I actually would kind of like to have both. I think that
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to read it in color, but I also really like the black and white. I think it's a medium he works really well in. So,
Well, I like black and white comics.
yeah, I do too. There's not enough of them. And I
There's
think
so many interesting things that you can do when you're just working in black and white.
Absolutely.
I mean, we talked about this a lot in the Billy 99 episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can do in black and white that just don't work as well when you introduce
Well,
color.
I
Well,
think
and also once you've changed to color, you've changed a lot of.
you've changed the feel.
Well, you've also changed some of the unknown elements. Because,
that's
like,
true.
when you first meet Sal, like, I was like, is he a monster? Is he a guy? Like, what color? Does he have green skin or whatever? And then they show
I thought
him,
he was a Neanderthal.
and they show him on a cover, and he's got human flesh tone.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I was like, oh, I guess he's human.
Yeah.
Like, and so it would have, like, that would have never happened.
I kind of
Hadn't been
expected
in
there to be an
color.
army of Sals for
Yeah.
some reason.
Yeah, I thought he was like a different species or like
Yeah.
a different time traveling, dimension hopping.
I mean,
race.
Yeah, and
Either
that's what
way,
I thought.
when
I thought
he-
he was a Neanderthal from a different universe where humans didn't evolve the way they did.
It was just it could have been anything, and that was what was so cool about the beginning of this book is you're like anything,
other
literally
thing
anything
is-
could happen.
The other thing is, when I first opened it up and the first 4 pages, I was like, "Holy shit! This could be out of the Tale of Sand."
Yeah,
I actually had the same.
You
the
did?
same
Okay,
thought,
that wasn't
yeah.
just me then.
I definitely
I thought that
made
was
me think of the
awesome.
Tale of Sand a little bit just because of.
I mean, granted, there's
like
no
he keeps
talking
looking
in
at the
that,
moon.
but-
He keeps looking at the moon, and I
Yeah.
thought that was really interesting. It was like
which
this is
could
his
also be the
anchor.
Earth.
It could be. Yeah.
I also really love the repeated motif of the pebble dropping into the pond.
Into the
love
pond,
that.
yes. And I like when the reason that's there's a moment when the reason that metaphor becomes apparent, and it becomes the reason why it's an appropriate metaphor. And I really appreciated that it was done. If you were paying attention, if you pay attention to the story, I think you're rewarded in some ways. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the ways you're rewarded is like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm
I
on
love
board.
the like Native American mythology.
That was
mysticism
also
that's
very
built
cool.
Into this. I love the symbolism of that.
Yeah.
kind
The
of stuff.
spider god.
The
And I-
spider woman god.
I think it
love
was
that stuff.
done without being patronizing or
Oh,
kind
absolutely.
of whitewashed, which happens a lot of times when
Oh,
you're
sure.
talking about like Native American faith and belief systems.
Something that I really like about the Tesla the Tesla parts and those parts is I felt like I was in the character's head while he
Yes.
was just thinking about a thing.
And
Yes.
you're learning stuff
Yeah.
too. Like it's not done in a preachy way. It's done in a, here's something that if you think is interesting, go check it out. Go learn more.
Well, it's also not. No one's telling him that. It's not happening in the narrative.
No,
it's
that's
stuff
true.
that he's already knows. So you're like catching up with him.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
he has all this information, and you need to learn it too as a reader.
Yeah,
and I know
because-
that's an excellent way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And it makes all the symbolism like a lot more impactful when it comes up in the story.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, I would recommend this to a wide range of people. I don't know that I'd recommend it to everybody because I think there's definitely a kind of person that would not be into this. But
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not the first thing I would hand people, but there's no reason not
if
to
you
hand
like
this
strange
to someone.
attractors, this is a good one.
I just feel like there's no reason not to hand this to somebody. Like I don't,
Yeah, there's
I don't
really
love
none.
it, but it's
Yeah, I mean,
someone's
you-
gonna get something out of it.
You might not like it, but that's not a reason not to try it.
it's
Like
absolutely
I would
true.
hand it to anybody and say,
Yeah.
"Give this a shot."
It's
see
short
how you
enough.
like it."
Well, and I
would
think
literally hand it to
you'll
anyone.
know whether or not it's for you in the first issue,
especially
So
if
it's
you
not-
read Bone and liked that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, there's no reason that you.
Or
shouldn't.
if you are
And
just
that's-
looking for, more abstract science fiction
Yeah.
type stuff.
And I think the thing that speaks the best of it is that you can tell this is something Jeff Smith put as much thought into this as he did into Bone. Like, there's definitely that feeling of love and crafting, and like, this was a story that he wanted to tell, and it comes across. And so even though there are kind of those things where there were areas where like we could have learned more, and maybe there could have been a few more issues here and there, like, I definitely walk away from this feeling like this was something he put a lot of thought into. This was something that he took the time to develop, and I think that's really awesome.
Well, it's good to note, too, after reading this, I realized that it's great because Jeff Smith still has the same amount of influence, if not more, on the comic book industry.
Yeah.
He has a massive amount of influence on the stuff that comes after him.
Yeah.
Because since he started releasing this story, there have been at least 4 that I can think of stories about scientists that are jumping between universes. Infinite Vacation, which isn't a scientist, but that's a universe hopping story. Black Science. Federal Bureau of Physics. And I just had the other one.
Trillium?
Sort of, yeah. That's, I don't know if that's, we don't know yet
what's
happening there.
And I think the interesting thing...
I think it's time travel more than dimension.
Right.
It's not, I don't know. That one's
it's
a bit
time
more
and
vague.
space travel.
Yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah, it's a lot more vague. So I'm not. But yeah, Trillium is another. There was one more that I thought of specifically, but
Rocket Girl.
It was not Rocket Girl.
Jeff Smith is interesting.
That's got time travel in it.
Yeah, it wasn't. It also just wasn't that. But yeah, it definitely has like a massive influence on what's happening. Like people pay attention when Jeff
Smith is an incredibly potent comic writer.
It's fantastic.
Or creator.
Well, I think he's. I mean, it's funny because I always consider him more of a cartoonist than a comic writer, but I don't mean that in any kind of like. I just.
That's not a derogatory.
Yeah, he's working outside of the medium. It's much more like I consider Jim Woodring, who's making like graphic sequential art, but it transcends what you would normally think about when you think about comic books.
Well, also, my first exposure to Jeff Smith was through Bone when it was in serialized comic format.
Yeah.
Like when it was only like 3 to 6 panels at a time.
Yeah, and
then I didn't read it as books until years later.
Yeah.
Bone was never released in comic strip form.
Yeah, it was in a literary magazine called Cricket.
Really?
That I got when I was a kid because my aunt worked for a library.
I picked up on Bone when like Volume 1, which was the first 6 issues, was out.
Yeah.
And then we had the single issues of like 7 up.
They divided
and it was up to like 13 at that point.
They split it up in this magazine along with another, I think it was a story that had pictures, but it was called like Cat Wings or something. Like I remember
I'm
those.
Gonna have to
like
look
really,
that up.
Yeah, it was in.
I remember the
magazine.
Cat Wings books actually.
Yeah, it was
because that seems incredibly weird to me because I can't imagine how you would do.
Well, you would
as
just
a comic
get
strip.
like a page, or you would just get like a strip of it at a time.
That seems
have you ever read the old James Bond serialized comic strips?
No.
Like they took the whole book of Moonraker and made it into comics formats, but they released it as 3 panels weekly. And that's all you got. And I was reading it and it's like, I cannot imagine reading this weekly. Like you get
awful.
3 panels and then you're like, oh, I wonder what happens after that.
That's enough for like the first part of the scene.
Yeah, and
it's like James Bond arrives for 18 weeks.
It was very compressed. Like the story was only like 12 pages total,
right?
At this 9x9 grid, but like by today's standards, like we can't imagine stories coming out like that. But when I was a kid,
9x9 grid.
Well, yeah, because it was 3 rows of 3 panels.
So it was a 3x3 grid. It was not. It was 9 panels.
It was 9 panel page, a 3x3.
Oh, that's
grid.
what I heard.
Yeah,
I did too.
It's funny
because
that
now thinking about it, that's an 81 up, which would be a truly
that would be an insane page.
I'm like, that's about the book.
No, it is a 3x3 grid, so a 9 panel page, so standard old school style comic storytelling. Because it was told in that exact same format, it was 3 panels. And then 3 rows of that.
I kind of missed that. Like the Gunslinger was originally done that way. It was like you got a chapter in a magazine, and then next month's magazine had the next chapter.
A lot of the Pope
H.P.
stories.
Lovecraft's Reanimator, Herbert West Reanimator, was done that way too. You got a chapter each month in a magazine.
A lot of the Pope stories that Joe and I have talked about are definitely in, what was it, Black Mask magazine?
Yeah.
But yeah, they would just split it up, and you were a kid, so you didn't care.
Well, that's how literary fiction, like literary magazines worked. Like that's how all the old science fiction magazines worked. Like they would serialize stories, and you'd get a chapter each month, and then after a year or whatever, they'd publish a book if it had been popular.
Yeah,
and
those
books were considered pulp. I have a lot of those old, like 70s paperback things that never came out in hardcover because they were considered pulp fiction, not something for the masses.
And that's what they did in Cricket Magazine. It was a literary magazine for kids, so it was mostly that same way, where it was like all these short stories, or you'd get like, it'd be like chapter 4 of this book, and then they did the same thing for Bone.
I gotta look that up.
Which is crazy, but that was my first exposure to it. I probably still have them laying around somewhere.
But do we want to move on to recommendations?
Yeah, sure.
Now. Yes, I would like to move on.
Probably said everything we need to say about RASL.
Who wants to go first?
And film.
Who wants?
RASL is great.
Yeah.
Who would like to go
Didn't
first?
read it for some reason. Go and read it now.
Read it now. Just go. Don't
Stop
question
that,
us. No, I will not stop.
Stop it.
I cannot be stopped.
Stop it, Joe.
No, I'm not going to stop.
Stop.
I'll go first then, so this stops.
Please do.
I am going to bring a series of comics called The Sword by the Luna Brothers. Has any of you guys read The Sword?
It's not
I
the
have
band.
not read the sword.
The sword
The
that does
sword.
Freya.
No. It
Like
is
Viking metal.
But you said by Luna Brothers?
by the Luna Brothers.
Okay. I'm down so far.
And this story it's 4 trades, so it's 24 issues for the whole shebang. And the hardcover, if you see the beautiful image hardcover that they put out, that it's the whole thing. And it's the story. This young paralyzed girl is sitting around eating dinner with her family, and these 3 people show up and murder her entire family, and she ends up in the basement of her house, which is on fire, and she finds this sword, and she picks it up, and she can walk, and she can fly, and she can jump over cars, and she's invulnerable, and she can do all this crazy shit, and she's like, why does my dad have this in the basement? And why were those people trying to get it from him and kill me? And it's just a beautifully illustrated story, and it's very interesting because it is about some crazy false alternate history stuff and super powered beings from another era, and it's very violent, but the art is beautiful. It's not as violent as Luther Strode. Joe's giving me a look.
I'm like, I know what you mean by violent, and I just want to double check.
It's not that bad, but there is still some, like, she's fighting people with a sword. Bad things are going to happen to those people. This isn't like when Wolverine hits people with his claws and nothing happens.
Can we not talk about that?
There are chunks. I'm just going to say that.
Chunks. I'm down with chunks.
And it's the art's fantastic. Like, that's why I picked this series up. But the series really drew me in because as I've said a lot of times on the show, like, what really gets me about a universe is just when I am enthralled with, like, wonder. When I'm like, I wonder what this is all about. Like, I need to know where this universe is coming from, and, like, why it ticks and, like, what's happening. And so the mystery of the universe itself is what really draws me on this series. So
Right on.
I really recommend it. It's just it's cool art. Thumb through it, see if you like it, and pick it up. It's really pretty.
Excellent. Joe, what did you bring this week?
Yeah, you go ahead.
No, you can go.
No, you go ahead.
All right, fine.
I was about to say, fine, I'll go.
I didn't think I'd win
Cade,
that, but
Cade,
okay.
go.
All right, fine. Cade, go.
So this week I brought something that I have definitely mentioned on the show before. It's something I really like. I know that not everybody here does. But Green Arrow is one of my favorite superheroes, if not my favorite. I don't think I can actually choose a favorite. I was thinking about it over the weekend.
Spider-Man.
Maybe.
Boxing glove arrows will always trump spider powers.
It's true. So I brought Kevin Smith's Green Arrow Quiver, drawn by Phil Hester, Andy Parks. And it's it's about Green Arrow coming back from the dead after he died in Mike Grell's ongoing Green Arrow series, but he comes back without memories of the Longbow Hunters and Forwards, and it's kind of interesting the way that they do it, with him coming back, and you see all these superheroes like, why are you back? You're dead. We buried you, blah, blah, blah. And
seems unusual for a universe in which
That never
99% of the heroes come back.
yeah, no, and it's
Especially
interesting.
Superman, which was just like 5 years previous.
He was never really dead.
He wasn't.
He was in a Kryptonian
Okay.
healing coma.
Right.
Kryptonian birth matrix.
But they buried him.
No,
They thought
That
he was dead.
their mistake, not
yeah.
his.
No,
It was
That
just
is not
today.
his fault.
Yeah. He was just resting his eyes. Right, Grandpa.
he was. Sometimes you got to rest your eyes when you've just
For
fought
20 to 30 years.
genetically engineered weapon.
Hulk ripoff.
Yes.
It's fair.
So do you want to say anything else about Quiver, Kate? Or
I really like it. I think that it is very well written. Say what you will about Kevin Smith, because I know a lot of people hate his writing.
I will say what I will about Kevin Smith.
I will say that I've listened to Kevin Smith's podcast and therefore have lost all respect for him as a human being.
I actually,
But
I dig his podcast.
He makes good movies.
Yeah. This was not long after, or was this before the Daredevil?
This was
This
around
is-
the same time.
Yeah.
I thought this was after, but
I think it's after,
not by
too.
long.
But yeah, this was when Kevin Smith was doing his, I'm going to write some comics thing.
Yeah.
And they are of a different era, is what I will say about them.
Out of everything I've read by him, Quiver is definitely my favorite. I don't know
Oh,
what
man.
that says about
Have you-
Quiver.
the Daredevil one, I went back and reread recently. It's nothing but text. There's like no art in that book at all. It's just 100% text.
It's
And I was
like
like,
Daredevil,
what?
the novel.
I was like, what is this?
The adapted
It's-
screenplay.
It's just very wordy. That's all.
It
I'll
is.
say.
I
I mean,
cannot
the
believe that
panels
Kevin
where
Smith
there
did
is
that.
art, though, it's Joe Quesada, and it
I know.
is pretty good. I thought.
Yeah, if it weren't all covered up by word balloons, I would love it.
It's just a time in Daredevil's history I don't care to go back and read.
Well, it
Basically
was definitely the
everything
beginning
before
of that.
Mark Waid.
That
Yes.
was like around that time when he was in like the gray and red suit and he had killed the Kingpin.
That was
and it
the
like-
best Daredevil outfit.
Anyways,
I still
Yeah,
like
I
it. I wanted to
actually-
go back to the yellow one.
I actually have Guardian Devil on the shelf next to this, and I was contemplating bringing it instead, but I was like, no, I want to bring Quiver.
I'm
I
not going to
hope-
talk about the
oh.
stories of that time. I just like that Daredevil outfit.
So you guys have not read the end of the Mark Waid Daredevil run yet, have you?
I
no,
have.
not yet. I
Okay.
need to.
I won't spoil it for you or our listeners, but there's a big like reboot at the end where it's like things are gonna be different. I really hope he puts the yellow costume on. I know he won't, but like I
No,
really
he's
want
totally
that.
not going to.
I want that. I don't know
Maybe
why.
okay. It's Mark Waid.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Maybe.
Maybe he'll get a new costume. You
Yeah,
don't know.
hey, I'd be fine with that. Whatever.
All
Costume
right.
changes are part of the industry.
Yeah, it happens.
Oh, so the other thing about this book is it's got some very cool pre-rebirth Hal Jordan stuff in it, which was something that drew me to it.
Because he's the Spectre still.
He's
in
still
this, right?
he's
Yeah.
still the
Is
Spectre
he
in
this?
this book.
Oh yeah, he is because this is post 0 hour.
Yes.
Far past 0 hour.
Well,
Um,
it was closer to 0 hour than we are it to it.
no, that is true. But
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I had to think about that for a minute. I was like, oh, yeah. It's been a long time since this came out.
I'm glad I said that right because I was like that. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
right, because 0 Hour came out in the mid-90s,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, 96 or 97.
It was a few years after the death of Superman.
You know, it's funny.
Which was 93.
The more we talk about this, the less I give any shits about DC
Dude,
chronology.
you love DC.
I am so fucking done with DC right
I've
now.
said, that all I've been, I said this last week on the show, all I've been reading is DC Comics, and I even reading the New 52. I can't not say that it's my favorite universe because it is. Like, I love Marvel, but DC just fucking
It's
somehow...
different for me because Marvel can pull off the multiverse like DC can't, but DC can write some very compelling stories. And I feel that after the shit debacle that Infinite Crisis podcast was, we need to talk about something good from DC.
Dude, DC is my universe, man. I don't know.
I am 100% the opposite. Like, whenever I'm writing the blog posts, like, I'm trying to come up with examples, and, like, I want to use both Marvel and DC examples. And it's like the Marvel examples come to me right away, and I'm, like, fucking scratching my head, like,
Civil
when
War,
the fuck is...
Ultimatum, Onslaught.
I'm not saying that Marvel is
Heroes
perfect.
Reborn.
Dude, I just sat down and reread Adam Warlock and the Infinity Watch, and 90% of that comic is 100% bullshit.
90% is 100% bullshit.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of percentages. That's an accurate statement. Like, that makes sense.
No, but the art is fucking atrocious throughout the entire
He used
thing.
a lot
The
of
story is not
percentages.
much
That
better.
means it's 100% true.
It's all the way true.
And that's the same way I feel about DC. Is like, I know there's a ton of fucking awful shit in the DC universe, especially now.
But there's also good shit.
I just like that universe. I don't know. It's the iconic characters, and I like them.
All right.
The thing I like about Green Arrow, and one of the things that this book brings to me, is that Green Arrow was a non-superpowered hero in a world of superpowers.
Yeah.
Like, he was the non-meta of the JLA for the longest time. He was the only one without...
Well, Batman.
Okay, but we've discussed this on the show. Batman has superpowers.
Well, by the
being
same
Batman.
extension, so does Green Arrow.
So does Green Arrow.
Okay, no, that is true. I mean...
But he's more of the everyman.
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
exactly.
Green Arrow,
Which is funny because he's basically a Batman ripoff.
Well, he absolutely was.
He
Batman
was in the
copy
60s.
when he was
Really
created. That's okay.
Before
It
he
is
got
okay,
his
yeah.
own identity thanks to Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil.
Yeah. Sometimes shitty knockoff characters.
Or, I mean, I guess Jack Kirby did it first.
Oh, yeah.
Who made Green Arrow a non-Batman ripoff.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, I mean, his first trade is actually one of the Jack Kirby showcase. Or Jack Kirby. I think it's a Jack Kirby showcase is Green Arrow.
More reasons for me to love Jack Kirby.
Yeah. And I think that was the first time he was not like the whole quick to the Arrow Cave and the Aeromobile and the aeroplane. And he's got Speedy, who is actually Robin, but with a bow.
Did he have his goatee when Jack drew
No.
him? Not yet still? Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's
That's
a Denny
the
O'Neil thing.
That's the delineation in my mind of like
Yeah.
when he becomes a character is when he gets his goatee. But that it's apparently not accurate.
So, Joe, are you pitching your book or am I pitching my book?
I can pitch.
You guys don't need to pitch books this week.
I can pitch
We'll just
my
read
book.
Green Arrow.
Yes,
I
please.
brought what I was before I realized that I had already had a pick for last week. This was what I was going to bring, and it's a little close to Planetary, and I kind of went back and forth. But I thought, what the hell? I brought Feral City, which is the first collection of Fell by Warren Ellis and Ben Templesmith, and I just have nothing but good things to say about this book. I don't actually. My biggest problem with this book is that unfortunately it
not done.
fell victim to Warren Ellis's errant hard drive.
Yeah.
It's a little interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Again,
Get going,
it's a
'cause
little
I'm
interesting
ready.
because I never consider Fell a Warren Ellis story. I always think Ben Templesmith, but it is
does
Warren
not feel
Ellis.
like a
It does not
book
feel like a
written by
Ben.
Ben
No, it doesn't.
Templesmith.
No, like I don't know.
I mean,
I guess when I think of Fell, I think more Ben Templesmith than Warren
The art
Ellis.
has a huge effect on this book, but this was right after he did 30 Days of Night.
Well, this is also post Wormwood, isn't it?
No, I think this is pre-Wormwood. I'd have to go back and look. But
Yeah,
this is, in my mind, when Templesmith starts to draw people more. Because it becomes a lot more less abstract, and you can really follow what's happening in the story like really well.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest complaint with 30 Days of Night was I was like, I have no idea what's
So
happening.
my whole thing is that when you guys usually say like Warren Ellis's Fell, I was like, I'm always like, oh yeah, that was Warren Ellis, wasn't it? Because to me, it always feels like Ben Templesmith.
If you've read the stuff,
I always confuse Fell with Gravel.
No,
Oh.
Gravel is the
I love-
crappy.
I love Gravel.
I mean, I like him in like a pulpy way. I feel like Warren Ellis will have like, I have this idea, but there's no fucking way that any like Image or anybody else is going to touch it. So I'll tell it as a Gravel story, and I'm always like,
Gravel is
okay.
all of the Constantine stories that Vertigo wouldn't let him tell.
Well, yeah, they're too fucked up for John Constantine, which should give you an idea of how fucked up.
They're just they really feel like
Some of
Constantine
them
stories to
are-
me, except that Gravel is in no way like Constantine.
No, he's not. He's a lot more.
Constantine gets through on he gets by on like charms and his
and just
his
knowledge
trickery
and
he's
yeah.
knowledgeable.
Got chutzpah.
And, yeah.
Well, but he's
And Gravel gets by on the fact that he's tough as a bag of gravel.
Like,
Like he just literally chins his way through any situation.
Gravel is like mystical private detective, and Constantine I've always thought of like he's like the mystical like sleazy ambulance chaser. He gets by completely on the fact that he knows he's got connections, he knows how to manipulate, and he pretty much knows which way the wind is blowing and can fucking use that to his advantage.
Gravel was also trained by the army. He is a combat magician,
Yeah, no,
which is very different than
He
Constantine.
is literally a combat
He
magician.
is magical,
But-
which it's up for debate about Constantine. Like I very much enjoy the theories where Constantine does not know magic.
I like
Because if you read the first 40 issues
I mean,
of
he does
Constantine,
summonings and stuff.
Sort
he
of.
talks to demons.
kind of. Not in Delano's run.
Yeah, he does.
They come to him. He never summons demons in Delano's run.
Well, now I got to double
He
check. 'cause I'm
exercises
second-guessing
stuff,
myself.
sort of.
But
I like
Okay,
the theories.
sorry to
I mean,
derail you, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Your
Talk about
pick.
Fell. We'll talk about
Yeah,
Constantine
what is
another
Fell
day.
even about?
It's a private detective
So,
book. Duh,
Fell
Joe's recommending it.
Obviously.
Fell is about a cop that gets.
Well, let me put it this way: I read the first issue of Fell, and I have no memory of it.
Yeah. It was a long time. This came out a long time ago.
Yeah, it did. Fell is about a cop that basically gets banished, I guess, for lack of a better word. He pretty much is like, he works in the city, and his boss is like, we're sending you to Snowtown, which is this kind of like,
He gets transferred.
yeah, I mean,
He's making everyone look bad.
yeah, I mean, he gets.
Wait, this is Hot Fuzz, the comic.
It is.
I mean, so he gets sent to Snowtown, which is this awful ghetto, run down, burnt out.
It's literally on fire.
Yeah, it is literally on fire. Like the first panel of the book is a sticky note, and he's like, "This is my apartment. This is my new home." I think maybe a lot of people killed themselves here, and I think that sets up the tone of the entire like first trade. And I think it does a really good job of Temple Smith's art. I think is fucking fantastic.
I think it's the
it works.
best that it's ever been.
Yeah,
in that.
I agree with you on that. I think it's Warren Ellis. I think the thing that Warren Ellis does that better than he does anything else is not just pick who he's going to work with, but pick who best will kind of bring the world he's envisioning to life. And you see it in Transmet, you see it in Planetary, you see it in Next Wave. And I think it is at its most apparent in Fell.
Yeah, I don't think this book would work without Temple Smith.
It really wouldn't. And it's really, really good. And like Fell, who's the main character, he's not like another Spider Jerusalem. He's very human, and he's very like susceptible to the things that humans are susceptible. So at one point he's sitting in on like an autopsy, and the coroner shows him something, and he like vomits because it's gross. And you know, he's very much more akin to like Marlowe from the
Reminds me a lot of Desolation Jones.
yeah, he's much more like
Desolation Jones is
than
very
he
much
is
like Marlowe.
than he is like Spider Jerusalem or
Yeah.
Elijah Snow. Which,
Oh, yeah.
and I think it's that departure that kind of maybe
Or
endears him
Dr.
to me.
Sleepless or any of
Yeah,
any
or
of the
Science, Dr.
Jerusalem
Sleepless, or as I like to
science.
call him, Science Jerusalem.
No, I love Fell. This is, if you like Desolation Jones and you just finished reading that and you're like, man, I want more Warren Ellis, like, you should grab this one
Go
next.
right to Fell.
Because
And-
I mean, read all of Warren Ellis, but
Yeah.
like, if you liked Desolation
Not
Jones specifically, I still think you should read it all. I don't care what you
yeah,
guys say.
I liked Ministry
I
of
think that there's
Space.
no excuse not to read everything that exists on the planet.
Didn't he write
Period.
Painkiller Jane?
I
Was that
don't
somebody else?
think so.
No, I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I actually don't remember. That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. My phone is dying, otherwise I would look it up. But, I mean, regardless.
Even if there's one, the thing is, Warren Ellis, as all artists, has good day, or as all writers, has good days and bad
That's
days.
all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
of my top 4 favorite comics ever, 2 of them are Warren Ellis books, which says a lot.
And the other one
but
is
he's
Grant
written
Morrison.
bad comics.
Oh, everybody! I don't know that
Everybody's
there's
written bad
anyone
comics.
that's immune to writing a bad comic.
Absolutely. But I think Fell it's atmospheric. It does a really good job of telling, like, I wouldn't really consider them mysteries, but more like just following Fell around as he's trying to be a cop in this tremendously shitty place and with these tremendously shitty people. And it lays the groundwork for stuff that would have happened later that never did. And I truly hope that Warren Ellis is working on it and then he brings it back. And the reason that there's still hope is because it took him fucking 10 years to tell Planetary.
Well, that was Cassidy.
Yeah, that's true. But, like, I still feel like there's hope. I hope because there's actually an issue that takes place after this, I think. There's 1 or 2 issues.
There's a few issues that came
Yeah,
out
because this is the first 9, right?
that
No,
aren't
no,
in
this is
the
first
trade.
5 or 6.
Okay, I think there are 9 total.
I was
Okay.
just reading somebody talking
This is
about
1
this.
through 8.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
like 11 issues or something that
okay.
came out. There's a
Yeah.
few that were never collected in the trade because the story never finished.
I see.
Yeah, which kind of is sad and makes me sad. But this is, I think, Fella's great. And I think even, like, well, with
Is
most
that
things,
opposed to sad things that make you happy?
Yes. Wait, this is a happy thing that makes me sad?
No, you said this is a sad thing that makes me sad.
It is a sad thing that makes me sad. The fact that it wasn't finished.
Right.
There are sad things that make me happy, like when Justin Bieber gets hit in the face with a water bottle. I mean, I'm sure he was sad about that, but I fucking watched that video like 100 times.
I think that's reading too far into Justin Bieber's emotional
And see, I was
state.
going to say, sad
could be.
things
He's
that
probably
make Joe
wrote down-
happy is Tobiah being wrong.
That's true, actually.
Because that is sad for me, but happy for Joe.
Let's not focus on Tobiah here. I'm happy when anybody is wrong and I'm right, which is always.
Oh, I didn't say you were right. I just meant if Toby's wrong, because half the time you're wrong too, Joe.
Boom!
That's
Suck on
completely
that.
untrue. Completely
Destroyed.
untrue.
You got burned.
Spurious assertion? Or wait,
Yes. Spurious.
not spurious. I think it's scurrilous.
Scurrilous?
Yes,
Scurrilous.
scurrilous.
I hate both of you.
Anyways.
Toby, what did you bring?
I brought a book that I'm super excited about. I have been waiting
remember.
a month to bring this book because I read issue 4. I got caught up with it. Issue 5, we're recording on Monday. The episode's going to go out on Friday. Issue 5 is going to come out on Wednesday, and it's going to wrap up the storyline. So if we pick this, the first 5 issues will be out.
What if it's awful?
It's not.
What if
no,
it's
what if
gonna-
the fifth
what if
one's
the- what if the
ruined?
fifth one-
I
is
know what
awful.
it is, and I'm pretty damn sure I'm voting for it.
So the book that I brought, and I'm going to fuck up one of the guys' names, is Rat Queens by Curtis Wybe and Rock Upchurch.
Yeah.
And this is
great
a comic book basically set in a D&D universe about a group of 4 female adventuresses, Hannah, Dee, Violet, and Betty. And
Aren't they still just adventurers, Toby? Okay.
Sexism.
I had
everywhere.
I had a very long conversation with my mother about res as a suffix
Yeah.
and whether it's sexist or actually feminist. And we kind of came down on the feminist side, or at least I did.
Because there are many actresses that would prefer to be called actors.
I
But
would
there
say
are
that
many
anything that points out
actresses-
sex would be sexism. Sexism
Not
itself
not
is
necessarily,
not...
because there's actually there's a branch of feminist writers who specifically want to be called authoresses.
Yeah, but there's a branch of feminists that also think that all women should have hairy legs and armpits, and if you don't, you're somehow giving into the patriarchy.
You know, there's actually an example in the Juggalo culture where ICP actually came down and said they don't like the term juggalette to refer to a female juggalo. And the juggalettes actually said, no, we are juggalettes. That is who we are.
I mean no disrespect when I say this, Cade, because I know I'm talking to your people, but I literally have no fucks to give about anything related to ICQ or Juggalos.
Well, they are
sorry.
the bleeding edge of what's happening in feminist culture right now, Toby, and I can't believe that you would fucking write that off. I can't believe that you would fucking write that off.
Oh my god, yes.
No, I think it's preference, right? I'm just
Yeah,
giving you a hard
I was
time.
just giving
because
an example that
Adventurous.
it's not
know that
always
they're-
sexist. Sometimes it is feminist.
I know that there are many actresses who would female actors who
Yeah.
would prefer to be called actors.
I mean, ultimately, the feminist thing to do is to refer to a woman in the way in which she would prefer to be
Exactly.
referred to.
And
Which-
add as many
it-
unnecessary Y's as possible.
as we all know, is sup, dude. That's just
Sup,
how
dude,
that's how you
yes.
talk to women,
Basically.
But it's spelled with a Y.
Yep.
dude.
Dude,
Dude.
I was... this is a conversation for another time.
In any case, Rat Queens is about a group of 4 female adventurers.
Is Queen spelled with a Y?
No. And I say that this is a D&D comic, not in that it's a fantasy comic about adventures. No, this is like you and your friends play Dungeons and Dragons. They are a group of 4 fucking murder hobos that go out, kill shit, take their gold, come back to town, and go on like drunken, debaucherous benders. The comic starts out with them having just had an all-night bar fight in which they destroyed a large section of the town that they're in, and they get arrested and forced to go on a quest, basically as an alternative to going to jail. Along with actually a number of other adventuring groups in the town, and there are several.
Question: is Kanye the Giant part of their D&D party?
He needs a moment.
Unfortunately, no.
He needs
Okay.
a moment.
All right.
No one troll should have all that power.
But as they're going on this adventure, assassins show up and they try and kill each of the adventuring parties. And then there's like a whole plot that develops off of that will hopefully be revealed or resolved at the end of the last issue or the 5th issue that's about to come out. But it's just fun and crazy, and it's got really great, strong female characters. It's got a rockabilly elf mage.
Well, she wouldn't be very strong then. Probably like a higher wisdom female character then, right?
Well,
Dex?
she's an
Where's an int?
intelligent.
It's just not. They're
So
not all.
that it-
I mean, all strong.
She has
female
a cell
characters
phone
would
that is
be
made out of rock, bound with tormented souls.
nice. I just
Which is
think that
kinda cool.
a party full of strong characters is probably not very well balanced.
No. You need some charisma.
You gotta
and
have
some...
somebody that's real lucky. Toby,
I swear to God, I'm just gonna murder you in your sleep. It'll be easy.
Wait,
It
but
will
then
be.
you're not a murder hobo. You're murdering a hobo.
Yeah, it'll be easy.
Well, no, a murder hobo kills people and then takes their stuff. That's
Yeah.
how it works.
Yeah, but you have a place to live. You're not a hobo.
Yeah.
I can change.
Take
I'll
this
amend
show
my
on the
ways.
road.
That's right. But
Yeah.
the
Rat
art is
Queens.
great in this comic. It's
It really is.
hilariously funny. If you like role playing games at all, you'll love this comic
If
book.
you
Like,
like-
it's everything that you do secretly at your table that you don't tell other people about
Yeah,
because
if
it's
you-
just a little weird.
If you liked Earthworld, I could see really enjoying this. If you like Street Angel,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else that we've talked about that you would probably dig this if you've read.
You would just dig this. It's
Baffert and
fun
the Grey
and
Mouser.
funny.
It's maybe probably
Heard.
Fafford.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say.
I'm done.
I'm fucking done.
I've been playing
done
Link
with all
Between
of you.
Worlds, and the first sage is Sasrahalasas, and I can't. I'm like
No.
Sasrahalasmahas.
When I was a kid playing Link to the Past, there's no way I would ever even try to say
No,
that
you're
name
like
out loud.
Sasmur
It's
You
like
know,
M. Night
sass.
Shyamalan.
The Shamhammer? Yeah.
Shamlan.
No, there's no L in it. It's just like Shyamalan.
It's just the Shamhammer.
ShamWow.
All right, Joe, what do you want to read?
As interesting as Rat Queens sound to me, I think I have never read anything by the Luna Brothers, and
Oh my
I'm
God.
interested to
You're
check it
missing
out. So
out.
I'm going to vote for the sword.
Yeah, they also did.
I'm going to vote for the S word.
Okay, I'm really done. No, they did.
If they didn't
Girls
want me to pronounce
and
it sward, they wouldn't have put the W in
They
it.
did Girls.
Yeah.
Which is really good as well.
And I should actually mention the comic that I pitched earlier, Alex and Ada, is written by one of the Luna brothers. It's written by Jonathan Luna.
Right.
I'm a big fan of Brothers, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I want to.
Well, did you know
check
the
out
Wachowski brothers are now the Wachowski siblings?
Yes.
Yeah. One of them changed gender.
And that's all good.
I found that out the other week, and I was just like,
In my head,
more power to you.
in my head, I always still think of them as the Wachowski brothers.
I think of the
I think
Wachowski
that's
brother
probably-
and Wachowski sister now.
I probably think it's disrespectful, but in my head, I can't not think of that.
I guess that's
what I
reasonable.
learned about him.
But yeah, so I'm gonna vote for the S word.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just flipping through Rat Queens, and there's one panel where they're taking a break to eat dinner, and Betty, the smidgen, who's basically like a halfling, she like pulls out the bag where she brought their food and like turns it out, and one of the other ones is like, "Did you seriously pack candy and drugs for dinner?" That's literally all there is in the bag: candy and drugs.
That's like when you pack when you're on drugs.
Or how I pack
You're
normally.
like, I'll need more of these. Also some candy. And as David Tell says, a whole bunch of Hot Wheels cars.
Yes.
Come on, candy is awesome. And when's the last time we had mushrooms together in the woods? 2 weeks ago. And if you recall, we weren't on a quest.
Nobody wants to hear about if you put hat and glasses on a dog. It'll look like it can talk.
drive a truck.
Yeah, or drive a truck.
All right, Cade,
the
what are
S
you
word.
voting for?
I'm voting for Rat Queens.
Nice.
Awesome.
Toby?
I've been super excited for this book.
Come back to me.
What? I break the tie.
I'll
That's
break
my-
the tie.
I break the tie. It's what I do.
Well, Chart, if you vote for Rat Queens, he has no vote.
I don't want to take that power away from him. That would be so rude.
But no one man should have all that power.
That's true. I want to read Fell because I love this book.
God damn it. I'm going to vote for Green Arrow. Fuck you.
You can't break
You have to break the tie. That's why. That's why I vote last. It's the worst thing ever. My vote never matters.
All right, fine. I guess I'm going to vote for the sword.
All right.
See, I manipulated you into doing that.
This isn't a game, guys. We're voting for the
No,
book
totally
we want to
is.
talk about. This
It's
isn't
the
game
greatest
theory.
mind game
This
ever.
isn't- Oh, I hate all of you. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to View from the Gutters. I hope our recommendations have inspired you to go out and find some new comics you'll enjoy. Join us next time for a discussion of our selected title, but like every week, we encourage you to read all of the recommended books. In the meantime, please leave us an iTunes review. It really does help new listeners find the show. You can also like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. Feel free to email us at contact@viewfromthegutters.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or recommendations you might have. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.